Hello friends, are you still confused about what is CMDB? In this episode, we will look what is actually it is about, what does it store, how do we use the CMDB in the right way, what does the CMDB looks like, what are the main pillars to make the CMDB strong. So let's dive into this video and see what is CMDB. Before we move on to the deep dive into the topics, a quick introduction about myself. I am Satpal Singh. I am CTA certified and been with the service now almost 9+ years of experience in it. Mostly I spend my time in CMDB, ITOM, discovery and all that stuff per topic. Okay, let's dive into what is CMDB. A CMDB is a big backbone of the IT operation where do you see all the configuration items and their relationships live. For example, it includes servers, it includes application, business services, and more on. A mature CMDB improves the change accuracy, troubleshooting, and operational insights. So that's what it really contains about the CMDB, what it contains in the CMDB. So you can see the single view of truth of all the assets and relationships. But actually, how do we actually ingest this data in our CMDB? That also question comes in our head. How do we get this data from different sources? There are some servers running in the organization. It can be hosted on-prem, or it is on the cloud, or it's on somewhere sitting down on the Excel sheet. So this is how we can import this data via different ways of doing, via using discovery. It can be agent-based, agent-less discovery. We can use ETL jobs. This is just a new way of defining how do we import data in CMDB to consume the IRE in the right way. I know it's overwhelmed to understand maybe a little bit about what is IRE, what is ETL. We can go deep dive into the future videos to understand it. Also, service mapping helps you to ingest data. It gives you the dependency map of how the system works. So you can pinpoint the error as soon as any issue occurs in the system. Also, we can use custom REST integration APIs, or we also see how does we can see how the data is coming from different angles. So one CI can be updated from the different sources, and that's where the CMDB 360 helps you to visualize it in the right way. This is not about the ingestion, but at least how do we visualize it. Right. Now, if we want to make our CMDB very strong, very trustworthy, it's a source of truth, we need to put some basic and very core principle into our organization to make sure that that really works perfectly fine. And that's why ServiceNow recommended, and I also think this is the right way to do it, using in these three pillars to make sure that you are getting this data in the right way. We are making sure that the governance is in place. We make sure that we have a right tool to see the data and visualize it in the right way and take informed decisions. And that's why we need these three pillars. Let's deep dive into it one by one. Let's take a first one as a topic called ingestion. I have mentioned this very much, so many times, like about what is ingestion is about. But this is more about how do we get in the data in CMDB. As I told you, discovery, ETL, and there are multiple ways to do it. And make sure that we should not create duplicate data in our CMDB, and that's why we use IRE engine. And all this solution actually uses IRE to reduce the duplicates. But once we have that data, but how we make sure that actually we are really governing the process, and we are governing the life cycle, or governing the CMDB in the right way. Make sure that the quality of the CMDB is great, the health of the CMDB is up to the mark. That is very important. So there are different ways to do that. We can use certifications, we can use lifecycle policies, where make sure that, okay, let's say If there are some CIs coming in into our CMDB, but it is not updated more than 30 days or 90 days, I'll make sure that those get retired automatically so that it does not contain any stale data. There might be some orphan CIs, there might be some stale CIs, there might be some relationships are broken, and so on and so forth. We need this maintenance. So make sure that we have a governance around it. Also, make sure that you create a team around it, how we distribute this task to the right people so that they take the decision and approve these tasks, or CMDB tasks we call it. And we see that also in future videos, how should we control that. And that's where you need to build the governance around it. This is quite important to make sure that it's in place to see the right data and the right information in our CMDB. Yeah, but how do we see that data? Of course, I said we have written down all the rules and everything, the governance around it. And that's where the third pillar is quite important. That is about the insights. Where do we see that the data is correct or not? And that's why we need the third pillar. And I'll just very quickly take you to the ServiceNow workspace, where basically it gives you a clarity. How do you see that, okay, there are three CMDBs 360, and there are actually some of the insights are there. Are we using the right way or not? There are some management where the governance, this is the insight where basically you can use to get this data in our system. Okay, let's get back to the topic. Okay, now we know why and how we use the CMD in the right way, but what is physical layer to application layer, how the businesses are connected? It's just a database, right? But does it really give the value to the system? Yeah, how the business and physical virtual application services are connected. It's all jumble mumbled all the time. It doesn't understand, like, okay, or I was very confused in the beginning. Okay, I have CMDB, but how do we use that in our organization? That's always a problem. That's why we have a framework that is called CSDM. A CSDM is a topic where you organize your data in a right way so that we can understand how the business works. And this can be done via different ways by different people or different industries. And they are using different frameworks outside CSDM. So enterprise architects, they have different frameworks. IT for IT, we have a TBM, and there are different ways of looking into the architectures from their angle. But we need to make sure that there should be a mapping of their value of the business, correlate that value in a right way in CMDB. And that's where we introduce, or ServiceNow introduce, CSDM structure or framework. This is just to organize the data in the right way, defining the domains and relationships and the data so that all the process can be used. What it does, basically, it gives you the mapping from top to bottom. How does it really want? So like you can see that, okay, there's a business service connected to an offering connected to an application service, how application service is connected to and a platform and an infrastructure, everything from top to bottom. It gives you a power for the ITSM. It gives you the power for the ITOM tool to use this data in a process, and make sure that we also give the visibility to the TBM transparency to see that how the cost is actually distributed in an entire system. So we have a new topic coming up next week or somewhere in the next video. We will do a quick deep dive into the what is operation workspace, a CMDB operation workspace, how we can consume it, and what are the features of each boxes. So yeah, that's me, Satpal Singh, for you, and If you have any questions, any doubts about CMDB, if you need any consultation, feel free to reach out to me over my LinkedIn, or of course you can ask me on a video. But that's for today, and see you soon. Thank you.